Mouse Guard is one of my favorite series in comics, and right now, the newest volume, Mouse Guard: The Dawn of the Black Axe, has just come out. I love this series, and a lot of people know that, and so they've been coming at me, asking me both about how is the series, and also how do you read Mouse Guard in general. So today, we are going to take a look both at the sort of a quick retrospective on Mouse Guard, how to read it, how to enjoy it, what the different offshoots are, and then also go over the newest story, Mouse Guard: Dawn of the Black Axe, that has just come out. If you're someone who's familiar with Mouse Guard, don't really need that refresher, go ahead and go to the timestamp that you see right now. There's also chapters that'll take you right there to just talk about Dawn of the Black Axe. But for the rest of us, let's begin one of the most brilliant series in comics. So Mouse Guard began about 20 years ago. In fact, actually, the signed and illustrated first issue that I have is part of the 20th anniversary series. Coming out from Archaea Press, which is a mostly defunct imprint of Boom Studios, this has been going on for a while, telling David Petersen's story of a very Redwall-like society of mice who are adventurers and guild artisans. It's basically an anthropomorphic woodland animal world. We follow the titular Mouse Guard, who are the protectors, sort of the heroes of this, as they try and keep society and the main city of Lockhaven safe for all of mousekind. The series began back in 2005 when David Petersen first put out Belly of the Beast, which would then go on to be collected in this first volume, Fall 1152. Now, one of the things that people run into and have issues with Mouse Guard is none of the volumes are labeled, and that's done very intentionally. Fall 1152 is going to where you start really the Mouse Guard journey. This was the first book published and kind of kicks off everything that's going here. Chronologically, there's going to be some stories that are before this, including the book that we're talking about here, Dawn of the Black Axe. I would not start with them. If you've never read before, this is the perfect place to start. It's basically Mouse Guard Volume 1 and follows our three heroes of the Mouse Guard, Liam, Kenzie, and my boy Saxon, as they go on what starts to be a normal patrol looking for a missing mouse who's a merchant, and winds up unveiling a grand conspiracy against Lockhaven and the Mouse Guard itself. I don't want to go too much further into plot points there, just because it is a wonderful, very quick read that I think everyone should read for themselves, and I don't want to give any spoilers here. This contains the 6 issues that were printed originally back then, and tells a basically complete story that then gets picked up in winter 1152. While there are no volume numbers, it of course makes sense that fall would be followed by winter of the same year. This is going to follow our adventure and basically deals with the aftermath of the conspiracy that the Mouse Guard dealt with in the first volume in that fall 1152. We see the characters get split up a little bit, and we get to see some further relationships. The first one was really more an introduction of Lockhaven and the world, and we get to see the characters sort of interacting and going about it. This is really the volume where we get to know each of the guard mice as they go a little bit further. It's maybe the strongest volume of all of them. Petersen's art has definitely taken a step up from the first volume. They're both still great, but I do think we see his art get stronger as it goes on, as he sort of has a better idea of who these mice are and their designs that come with that. Through the stories, we get, again, these great character moments, but also wonderful action sequences, some really dark and almost creepy locales, and just one of the core reasons why this is one of the most beloved series. You can see right down there that the series did win at least an Eisner. I think they've won a few of them. Then lastly, for our core series, we have The Black Axe. This is actually going to be a prequel story to the previous two that came out, and is sort of an origin story for one of the characters that we meet in Fall 1152 and fleshes out further in Winter 1152, and deals with the titular Black Axe, which is a very powerful artifact that takes a very strong role in the world of Mouseguard, with the wielder being sort of a protector of Mousekind that works sort of from the shadows, legendary figure. And we see the character that is pictured on the front. Again, I want to be vague. I don't want any spoilers going on about how he came to possess this Black Axe and some of the things that he's done through there. Even though this comes before chronologically the other two, the very beginning does deal with the fallout of Winter 1152. And so again, I would recommend reading this one after finishing Winter 1152. Now, you've seen me holding up these particular volumes right here. Mouseguard is printed all in this sort of square bound format that you see right here. I believe these are printed at 8x8. And just to show you a comparison of what that looks like compared to a regular comic, this is one I had just sort of sitting around right here. You can see it is wider than that, but it is shorter. And that particular size does allow this to be framed in a really nice way and kind of looks different than everything that's there. The main way that you're going to read these three is either in these hardcovers like this, or they are also a paperback version printed at the same size. Now, for those of you that are really big fans and kind of want to push it a little bit farther, there are actually some oversized deluxe versions, and those being slipcase black and white versions. These are signed and numbered, and unfortunately limited only to 1,000. You can see this copy right here is number 2. So, unfortunately, they are not actively in print anymore. And unless you happen to get lucky finding one in a shop that's been discarded, you're probably going to have to pay a fair amount over cover if you're looking for any of the previous volumes. Black Axe volume number 3 is still fairly available. In fact, you should be able to find it under cover at this point. But it is beautiful. You get the original inks that were done by Petersen with some vellum overlays for any of the sort of effects that came in afterwards. So you can see here when this original image was drawn, it was just of the mouse that we have here, with the snow effects coming in later, and so presented here with these vellum that's going there. Really, really cool presentation that allows for sort of a best of all world of really an artist edition for what this is, since this is the size that he draws at, with also giving the option to see what that final printed page is like. These are some of my favorite books in my collection, and at this point, I'm still on the hunt for Fall 1152. It is, like I said, sold out pretty much everywhere I've been able to find. So if you happen to see one out in the wild, hook your boy up, give me a shout. And honestly, those 3 books right there are going to give you the core Mouseguard experience. That isn't all that's come out, though. Black Axe came out in 2013, which at the time that I'm filming this is 13 years ago. And we have steadily seen Mouseguard coming out through then. Everything that's really happened since then kind of falls into one of 2 categories. We either have some type of reference work, things like the art book, which is published at the same size as those deluxe hardcovers, and goes into a lot of behind the scenes of the art that was done there, and then also some very large blown up pictures there. This is one of my favorite art books that I have in my collection for both the scope of the behind the scenes work that you have, while also recreating in very large scale some of what's happening there. You can see it has scripts, it has some of the images that's going before, some of the stuff that David Petersen was doing before Mouseguard even started. I actually like to bring this upstairs and use some reference pictures to then draw with the kids. Really fun. And then again, you get just these beautiful blown up pictures that are going there. But nothing really new from a story standpoint is coming from a book like this. You're going to see things like this. I'd categorize the role playing game that came out. There's, for anyone who's played Dungeons and Dragons and is familiar with tabletop role playing games, David Petersen did develop a version of something like that under this particular banner. And then there have also been some other sketchbooks. You can see this particular one is 2005 to 2015. He's also come out with sort of yearly sketchbooks and things that he's had there. Also some paper craft designs, and actually you can find some for free on his website. I'd also categorize something like the alphabet book in that same way, where there's no actual real story that's happening here. But instead we have an alphabet book with the intention that this is sort of an in-universe book that would be given to young mice to sort of teach them about the world. And so we get both these beautiful block cuts that we have here of the letters with something in there, and then some type of large picture that is framed as if it is a woodcut, along with some type of small blurb written in meter going about that. This, as the father of two young kids, I absolutely love and have actually read them with it, even if they're a little bit older than an alphabet book would normally be something that I would be sharing. And the other side of the books that have come out since the publishing of Black Axe, I would put into sort of world fleshing out anthology stories. That's going to be things like the Owlhen, Caregiver, and Other Tales, the different free comic book day stories that have come out. This was a particularly cool hardcover that came out from Archaea back in 2014. And then Baldwin the Brave, which I have around here somewhere but can't find. Those are going to be collections of sort of small tales that Petersen wrote to sort of tell about the world beyond Lockhaven and sort of what happens when the Mouse Guard isn't there patrolling, that this is a whole fleshed out world. The main part of this particular category you're going to see are the Legends of the Mouse Guard series. This is going to comprise of 3 books as of right now. And they take place within this one inn that every year hosts a storytelling competition that says, for someone who goes out, you will have your bar tab for the year stricken clean if you tell the best story. And it's done in this particular way to allow Petersen to let other creatives come in and sort of play within his universe, without keeping a strict canon, since of course these are stories that are being told. They're a neat format where David Petersen is going to draw all of the things that are happening in the inn, but we have a lot of other people coming in and sort of telling their own stories within the Mouse Guard world and doing it within their own characteristics. Most of these people are going to be sort of smaller names. You're not going to see huge names within the industry for the most part. There is one story that was done by Stan Sakai. I believe that's in the 2nd volume. And they're neat, but they are not essential, especially where if you are someone who's strict about the lore of Mouse Guard, these are sort of questionable canonicity, of course, because these are stories that are being told by people for a contest. So if the details don't come out to be 100% true, much in the same way that when we are retelling stories, we might embellish some parts or make up a thing here and there to make for a better tale, they don't necessarily need to be. Importantly, none of these stories are going to touch on our main characters of Kenzie, Liam, and Saxon. Those characters are largely untouched since really the end of Winter 1152. And for those of us who have really wanted to see more of that story, unfortunately, we're going to continue waiting. I talked to David Petersen this past year at Heroes Con, asked him about his plans for the series, and while he was really excited to continue telling these stories within the universe of Mouse Guard with Dawn of the Black Axe, he is, at least for now, mostly focusing on different Black Axe wielders through history before he's planning on returning to the story of Liam, Saxon, and Kenzie, which is totally cool. I'm happy for any Mouse Guard that we can get but I do really want to see what's happening there with my three guys. But that right there really kind of takes you to everything you need to know about the main Mouse Guard universe in about 15 minutes or so, depending on how long this gets edited down. This, of course, is a very truncated view, not really meant to give you an overview of the series, but sort of an idea of what there is and where to start if this is something new for you. But now, let's talk about the newest book, Dawn of the Black Axe. The newest installment in the Mouse Guard universe is Mouse Guard Dawn of the Black Axe. This is going to be a prequel story that is the earliest, to the best of my knowledge, story that has been told in the Mouse Guard universe and tells the tale of Bardrick, our first ever wielder of the Black Axe, which has been seen throughout the main series that is coming out. While this is, again, sort of a World of Mouse Guard story, as opposed to continuing our three titular characters, I found this to be particularly exciting because we are seeing for the first time a David Petersen penned story that has gone for multiple volumes. Typically, whenever we're getting a story from him, it has been part of a larger collection and has only consisted of part of that. Whereas here, we got a dedicated story over 3 oversized issues. For the first time, though, in this particular style of format, we actually do not have David Petersen doing the artwork. This time, he is joined by Gabriel Rodriguez, who has done the art line work. So he did the penciling and the inks, with David Petersen taking over for the coloring. And what you get right there is a very different looking style, but it still feels familiar, both because of Rodriguez's adherence to the world of Mouse Guard and then also those familiar colors that are coming from Petersen. And on top of that, Rodriguez asked for reference pictures for everything that was kind of going out there from Petersen. And so in the back of every issue, you got sort of these sets where he's saying, this is what I'm envisioning for this set. Here's the room that's being taken there, and some references that you have there. So even though it feels different than what came before, it's still familiar. Now, because this hardcover is just coming out at the time that I'm doing this, I don't want to spoil things too much, but largely what we see is the creation of the Black Axe happening off-panel and being presented to our wielder Bardrick, who is the one that has sort of taken up the mantle and has forsaken his own life to go off and help protect Mousekind. This is going to take place about 200 or so years prior to the beginning of our Mouse Guard series in 1152. And we do see a very different world where the mice of Lockhaven are being assaulted, are being beset on all sides by 5 warring snake tribes. And what we see is the blacksmith who has made this particular Black Axe, his family was, well, it's hard to say murdered when you're talking about mice, but was eaten by snakes of one of the particular ways out there, and he put his sorrow and pain that he felt from that into the making of this particular axe. And from there, he tasks Bardrick with getting revenge on the serpent that took the life of his family. And what we see is Bardrick say, I'm going to do one step further than that. I am going to lay waste to all 5 of these kingdoms of snakes and thus make this place safer for mice. It's a pretty standard thing that we would see there. Later on, as we see the guard mice, of course, snakes are a pretty common enemy that they go against, and we've seen more than enough snake content. But one of the things that I thought was interesting about this particular series is it takes some of the notions that have come with some of the later volumes that Petersen has put out, like Owlhen Caregiver, where we see that a little bit more of the idea of sort of a natural life cycle, as opposed to mice are always the good guys and anyone who is trying to eat them or anything like that are the bad guys. The snakes are sort of put here as just that. They're snakes. They're not evil villains who are going out and tormenting the mice. They are simply trying to exist as the mice do. They just happen to do that as being a predator. And so as Bardrick is waging his war against the snakes, he begins to wonder, really, is he having the effect that he wants? Is this war on the snakes actually creating the society that he wants? Is he just causing more, violence and pain going into the world? And this spectral elk, who at the beginning is the only, he's the only one that can see, and we don't quite know, is he going crazy? Is that actually there? Sort of talks with him about the natural order of things. Unfortunately, this story reads very quick, and being that it's only 3 of these as opposed to a standard Mouse Guard volume, which is made up of 6, it does feel a little bit short and a little bit lacking. But honestly, getting an in-universe canon, quote-unquote, continued story that went on for multiple issues that is at least penned by David Petersen was so exciting for me. This was one of my books of the year last year in 2025 and has given me hope that we're going to get more main series Mouse Guard content in the years to come. If you are a Mouse Guard fan, you probably have already been super excited about this. If you weren't someone who was on Mouse Guard before, this is a perfect place to start. You're not going to be spoiling anything for yourself that's going to come later. This is the first thing that you could pick up and read because it predates everything else. And I think this would get you really excited to then go back and try the rest of the series. No matter what, I think this is going to be a perfect place for anyone to be able to just jump right in. The only thing that I can say about it is, again, I wish it was longer. I wish we had more. It has a very aggressive pace. We go from point A to point B to point C with no dilly, no dally. And again, if I'm nitpicking, I would have loved to have seen Petersen himself doing all of the artwork. Nothing against Gabriel Rodriguez's work, but the core series has always been done by Petersen himself. He is a fantastic artist who knows these characters better than anyone else. I would love to see more of his work. Unfortunately, talking to him at Heroes, it doesn't sound like that is going to be the case moving forward. But hey, as long as he's a creative force behind this, I'll be there. And that has been Dawn of the Black Axe and Mouse Guard in general. I didn't want to go too down the rabbit hole because I do want this to be the kind of thing that someone can just pick up and enjoy. I loved this book. My biggest gripe was I just wanted more of it, which is, kind of exactly what you're looking for. You don't ever want something to overstay its welcome. You want to leave them wanting more, and this definitely did that. Hopefully, we see, if not in 2026, at least 2027, more of Mouse Guard coming out, since it does sound like that's what this was going there for. But whether this is your first book or whether you've got an entire shelf dedicated to Mouse Guard, I think this is going to make you really, really happy. But hey, I want to hear from you out there. Are you a longtime Mouse Guard fan who has had this as your most anticipated book? Are you a lapsed fan who forgot all about this coming out and said, there's new Mouse Guard? Sign me up. Or are you someone who's never heard of Mouse Guard before and can't wait to check this out? Please, whatever the case is, let me know down in the comments below. But hey, I've been Bunkmaster B. You all have been amazing, and I've got Lockhaven to save. I'll catch you next time.